I'd like to visit with you today about the State of the President's Forum as an association and to provide an update on our work throughout the past year. Here's the lead. The State of the President's Forum is strong. Let me report on the three major value propositions of the President's Forum. First, presidential engagement. Second, policy and communications. And third, change projects. Let's start by reviewing the presidential engagement value proposition. Over the past year, we've added several fantastic leaders to the forum. Those leaders include David Andrews, University of Massachusetts Global, Mark Milliron, National University, Becky Takeda Tinker, CSU Global, Brian Ashton, BYU Pathway Worldwide, and Ann Kress at Northern Virginia Community College. We also added our first collaboration member in Structure. We'll be joined on a regular basis by Melissa Lobel. As we continue to grow the forum in 2024, we'll ask for your help in identifying and recruiting new members to join us and to support the work of accountable innovation. In 2023, the spring meeting in Washington, D.C. and the fall meeting in Salt Lake City, Utah provided great opportunities to renew friendships and advance the work of accountable innovation. Mark Milliron summed it up well.
I got to tell you, one of the things I'm most excited about is being in a group of leaders who are driving the work of institutions that are committed to helping more students from more diverse backgrounds get more education for less money at higher quality than ever before. This is a group of difference makers, and there's so much to learn from each other. It's exciting work.
When the presidents are together, whether it's in person or by video conference, things happen. In 2023, we had a lot of opportunities for convening. In 2024, we expect more of the same. Now let's talk about the policy and communication value proposition. First, as a group, the President's Forum is really uniquely positioned to impact public policy. We have members from all over the country, from different institutions, so when we come together, we're much stronger than we are individually.
The members of the President's Forum can come together and focus on activities that are student-centric, that create enough scale and volume for us to push the conversation across the country on how do we really focus on those things that are most beneficial to students.
We started the year off with a plan to influence public policy. We worked with the Skills First Coalition, and we outlined some of our key objectives in 2023 to Congress. We sent them a letter, and we asked Congress to do the following. We asked them to promote multiple pathways, to make secondary education and training more affordable, to encourage innovation, and to improve the link between education and employment. We had a great conversation with Chairwoman Fox of the House Committee on Education and Workforce. We talked to her about a range of issues, but one of the things that she mentioned was how welcome it was to have representatives for working learners that were engaged in the policymaking process. We thought that was fantastic, and that's one of the strengths of the President's Forum. We also discussed WIOA and creating opportunities for short-term credentials. It's something that Chairwoman Fox called Workforce Pell. We also had a really productive conversation with Ranking Member Bobby Scott. He spoke to us about short-term Pell, and he emphasized the need for accountability in the program. That was a great conversation because the members of the President's Forum agree on that accountability issue, and we need to find ways that we can make these programs good for the students, not just good for the institutions that provide them. We had a very productive conversation with Undersecretary James Cavall at the Department of Education. We discussed a wide range of issues. We talked about debt repayment. We talked about transparency in all of our outcomes. And we talked about the use of technology for adult learners. We have a ton of examples of that. In all of this, it was overlaid by the need for accountability in this innovation. And that is something that the President's Forum is a champion of, accountable innovation. The type of innovation that benefits students. It's not just change for change's sake. These meetings set the stage for two of our biggest priorities throughout the year. One is aligning workforce funding with higher education. So that's aligning WIOA with higher education. And the second is a pathway to shorter credentials through federal funding of short-term Pell. So jump forward to December of 2023. And the President's Forum, again, worked with the Skills First Coalition to support WIOA reform and to support the short-term Pell legislation that was inclusive of online programs. Our efforts really paid off. Last year in December, we saw two bipartisan bills introduced in the House on both WIOA and short-term Pell. While there's still a lot of work to be done, having bipartisan support is in itself a major victory. Beyond our work on the legislative front, we are also very engaged on the regulatory front. Negotiated rulemakings are always important, and we have to be more committed to that process. In fact, we started the year by requesting that the department recognize the President's Forum as a stakeholder for negotiated rulemakings moving forward. We made the case that the President's Forum represents adult learners in a way that they're not currently represented. We also coordinated efforts to preserve reciprocity within the regulatory process. This included hosting an event on Capitol Hill to help Hill staffers understand how important this was for their state institutions. We worked with Capitol Hill and with the governors to send a message that this issue is important to the states and major stakeholders are closely watching their work. For the rulemaking that commenced this year in January of 2024, we encouraged the President's Forum institutions to nominate negotiators. We supported those nominations. We facilitated letters of recommendation from the President's Forum, and we had 2 member-affiliated negotiators that were selected. We've organized a negotiated rulemaking working group at the Forum. We meet weekly, and we coordinate efforts to influence the rulemaking process. In fact, we now have 4 negotiators who are actively engaged in this working group. On the communications front, we've made great strides in 2023. As the Forum continues to grow, we've taken core communication functions like the website, email, and social media, and we've brought them in-house, so we're no longer dependent on the contractors that have performed these vital functions. We started 2023 right with the Clayton Christensen Institute by outlining New Year's resolutions from 10 of our presidents. The post performed really well. In fact, at the end of the year, it was the 3rd most successful post for the Institute. Another noteworthy development in our communication work at the Forum is the launch of the Innovator podcast. It's a podcast where we explore the best ways to change the system of higher education to better serve students. We've been interviewing presidents on the podcast, and we want to help our audiences better understand what motivates and inspires them. We've been asking the presidents a variety of questions, including, what's your best day at work? You'll notice a fairly consistent response to that question.
I say this is going to always be true. And it's my best day at work is any day at graduation. I love graduation. Every time I get to see students who you see the tears in their eyes and you see the hundreds of them who didn't think they could do it, who are now doing it, it reminds me on a regular basis of the difference we can make.
Every year, commencement is my best day of the year. It's like game day. Commencement is our game day. I get there early and I visit with the students and their families before the ceremony begins, before we wear them down with long speeches. And the enthusiasm and the excitement always re-energizes me and as a leader in higher education.
Pomp and Circumstance is on my playlist, baby. I love, and part of it's because it's so symbolic of all this time and energy and the sheer joy and the pride of accomplishment and the family connection around it. There's nothing more symbolic. I've yet to get burned out on commencement.
Of course, on any good podcast, we feature interesting guests that talk about innovation in higher education from a lot of different perspectives. Here are some of the guests.
The first thing is there are a growing chorus of people who want to measure accurately and fairly the economic returns of going to college. And the thing that will unleash all of this, I think, is more widespread access by regulators, creditors, institutions, researchers to verified wage data. Overwhelmingly, the primary goal here, the primary political and policy basis for higher ed is economic mobility. So let's get after measuring that in a really good way.
Industry and academia have become a battle space of great power competition. Full stop.
Right.
Like, that's what's going on today. Now, industry and academia don't have nation-state intelligence apparatuses, so they're, in many respects, have been sitting ducks. Strider was started out of a sense of duty, but also frustration. I mean, we were working on these issues in support of different U.S. government programs, and you don't need to do 100 of the same investigation to realize like they all lead back to industry or academia. And so what we came to realize was, like I said earlier, industry and academia are on the front lines.
Let's talk about what types of bachelor's degrees are available through the BYU system at this point for 3-year degrees that can be accomplished in 3 years. Which degrees did you choose?
Our 3-year degrees that we offer right now online through BYU Pathway Worldwide. We have a business degree, We have a communications degree through Ensign College. There are a lot of schools looking for ways to do this and other innovative ideas.
So, tuition assistance is a benefit provided to service members by the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense manages the overall program, and then it's actually implemented by the individual military services, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and so on. But it is intended to allow service members to pursue voluntary off-duty education. So, that can be anything from an associate's degree all the way up to a master's degree.
To make sure our messages are being heard, we've also developed a monthly newsletter. We've created a distribution list of over 500 innovators in the higher education field. And in 2024, we're going to work to expand this audience, and we'll work with you to make this happen. We look forward to highlighting your institutions in the podcast, the newsletter, and on social media in 2024 and beyond. Now let's transition to our third value proposition, that is change projects. The President's Forum's looking to change the system of higher education by focusing on issues that can't be solved by just one institution. While some of this work has to be done through the public policy process, there are some things that we can do to change the system by simply working together. In partnership with the Charles Koch Foundation, we established the President's Forum Employer Table, consisting of regional and national employers interested in creating more effective short-term credentialing. We'll use this employer table throughout this next year to better understand and respond to employer needs. We're also working with the National Governors Association on a very interesting project. Each year, the NGA has a Chairs Initiative that all of the governors focus on. This year, the NGA Chairs Initiative is Disagree Better. The governors are very concerned about the way that we disagree. In fact, they've declared that we've forgotten how to persuade without hating each other.
Thanks to the President's Forum, this is a really cool opportunity for us to want to have you here in the state of Utah. So grateful for the work that you all are doing, and it's so fun to see old friends and to know that there's life after politics. And I think the idea of pluralism and how to survive as a pluralistic society, how to disagree without hating each other is I think we have to speak it into existence. I think we have to define it. I think we have to educate on how it works. And I don't think there's much of that happening. Yeah. We desperately need more of it, and I'm not convinced we've been getting it right in the traditional ways. So bless you. You're on the side of angels. You're doing great work. Thank you for educating our country. I'm big fans of everything that you do.
As part of their commitment to disagree better, the governors have partnered with the President's Forum to create trainings to deploy to our workforce. We'll roll out these trainings in the NGA summer meetings in Salt Lake City, Utah this July. As you can see, 2023 has been a year full of action, and I want to thank our member institutions for their support and for their partnership. In 2024, you can expect robust work to advance accountable innovation in both public policy and through our change projects. Finally, this year, we'll add several additional institutional members as partners. We'll also look to add some collaboration partners that are aligned with our vision to reinvent higher education to better serve our students. At the President's Forum, we always put our students first, and we value partners who do the same.